There's a new Torii botnet with persistent mechanisms to hide itself. Another day, another week, another IoT botnet. This time it's about Torii botnet. It's compared to previous IoT botnets like Mirai and others. It's kind of step above those with the functionality, modularity they have. It's the very good analysis has been done by the Avast, and they have some findings and various indicators.
Torii botnet is another great example of malware that's evolving.
Yeah, what really got me about the Torii botnet was its complexity. Right off the bat, it was coming from Tor exit nodes, which is unusual.
The key difference between the previous IoT botnets and this one is it's mainly focused on data exfiltration rather than doing the usual DDoS as well as crypto mining. And it has a very sophisticated modular shell script compared to the previous ones. In this sense, shell script I meant they have various components in the shell scripts to target various flavors of the architectures. I guess in this case they're targeting about 6 to 8 different architectures. There are different stages actually. The first stage looks for various payloads, and the way it does is it identifies the target's architecture, the CPU architecture. If it is x86, it only tries to get the payload relevant to that specific x86. Once the payload gets it, there are different ways they are doing it. Actually, there are various commands they are using, wget, a combination of busybox, as well as FTP and other combinations. The reason they are using wget and FTP is, for some reason, if HTTP way is not successful for them, they're defaulting to the FTP, so that they always have some sort of mechanism to get the payload to the own devices. Of course, it's XOR encrypted. Once the first payload is successful, it's actually payload to the second payload. There's another version. It's also, again, it's XOR encrypted. The thing I want to mention and maybe mention a little bit time about is the persistent mechanism they're trying to keep on the devices. They're trying to do 6 ways of persistence. When coming to the C2 part, it tries to use the 443, which is HTTPS for the encryption. Even though it's HTTPS, it's not using the TLS, but it's using it to just hide itself, I think, and utilizing it, but still it's using its own encryption mechanism. So why it's been using that, there are a couple of reasons, I guess. Anti-debugging, so that we don't reverse engineer and find out what it's really doing it. The anti-debugging feature, I found it from the blog, is it has a feature to sleep for 60 seconds. Every 60 seconds it sleeps, and again it does its job. And it also randomizes the process names. It has a list of names. For example, it picks up the file names from different locations. Based on some sort of algorithm, they try to randomize, they mix those and they randomize it, so that every time you're coming up with a different name.
So it's sort of a pseudo-random.
A pseudo-random.
Okay.
Yeah. They did very good analysis with that one. They went real in-depth how they figured out that one. And also they have multilevel encryption. It's AES 128 encrypted, and they have MD5 checksum so that nobody has tampered with the second payload during the communication. It seems every time, every binary, they have at least 3 C2 servers. I think it's like a multi-level fallback. I think if first one is not working, they will go to the second one. If second is not working, third one. I think that's how far they went. There are some of the commands used by C2 commands used by this specific Torii botnet. There are basically different commands what it does. In addition to this, from our analysis, we observed a few additional characteristics not discussed in the blog, but still we are analyzing it. Probably we may have some additional concrete details we can share later. I picked up, actually there is one specific port while they're doing in the second stage of the payload, when the first payload is dropped. During the second payload, when they're trying to use especially FTP port, there's one specific port they are using. That's a 401 TCP port. So I say, okay, let's see in our system, in our telemetry data, did we see anything while happening here? Here I'm trying to show the past 30 days how the flow or volumetric of a specific port is there. And as you can see here, around September 22nd, 23rd time frame, there was a big spike of about 65 million flow records. In fact, the analysis, the report they published was on 27. It's likely before that somebody is testing it, and that's why you see almost it's a flat line, and then one day it just goes up. Okay, then after seeing this, I thought, okay, let me see, are there any scanners in this port? When I say there's actually similar to us, there are a couple of spikes. Again, on September 23rd, there's a big spike in the sense there are only 3 scanners. If you see the y-axis, it's basically number of scanners looking for the specific port. And after the report has been published, there is one right after 9/29. It could be some researchers might be looking at it, or maybe some adversaries that they're trying to see what's really happening. I guess that's all I have to share. I felt it's interesting that this IoT botnet is a little bit different than what we have seen.
Yeah, I'm always fascinated by people being able to discover these, and actually, even like, let's say you wanted to build a botnet, the different approaches the bad guys take. This adversary seems to be trying to use Tor, which is again something we hadn't seen before. So very interesting.
It's really a testament to the security research company Avast for figuring all of this out and then detailing it in fantastic fashion and providing a wealth of IOCs that you can then take and develop, snort signatures, whatever you'd like. I also wanted to point out that those 6 methods of persistence, it runs all of them. It doesn't pick and choose one or two. It runs every single one. So it's a concerted effort to make sure that persistence is achieved on that machine. I thought it was interesting.
In that case, actually, well, you brought up a good point. Actually, all the Marias and other IoT botnets, that's how they used to deliver the payload, dump all the executables and send it to the victim. I think in this case, they're using it to utilize for the persistence. So that, typically maybe you can find out 1 or 2, maybe 3. And still you have 3 or 4 more left to basically tackle this out.
Yeah, which just underscores the need, whenever you have an infected device of any kind, you really should just re-image it and rebuild it from scratch or reflash the firmware, just because you never know how many backdoors the adversary really did put in there. Cool. Thanks, Ganesh.
Thank you.